When you're a person that is very sensitive to energy, we have to recognize when we're being burned out, and whenever we start to feel that spiritual exhaustion, it's pretty much time to, take a break, give yourself some rest. And I find myself struggling to do that because sometimes, I always like to keep myself busy, but I'm slowly but surely learning how to actually give myself a break from things and stuff like that. And I think that it comes from being gaslighted. When people try to minimize all the things that you have been putting on your plate, trying to get everything done, and that goes back to that. It's something else, just whether it's in the household or in the workplace, things like that, being told that you're not doing enough, being made to feel like you're not working hard enough or you're not trying hard enough. It just goes back to that, constantly going through that, and that can cause you to think that, for one, you start to feel worthless, and also it makes you feel like, it just makes you feel like everything's kind of caving in on you. It's like you're putting so much effort into things in your life, and you then at the same time you have somebody gaslighting you, making you think that you're not doing enough, and that's why you're not really getting where you want to be. But here's the thing, man, we have to be very patient in whatever it is that we do. And we have to also give ourselves that grace to say that, sometimes things, it's just sometimes things don't work out when it comes to whatever you're doing, and we have a very well deserved rest, especially from other things, because in my experience, I'm gonna just say this too, man. I'm gonna connect this with other things, is that a lot of times we're exhausted, not so much because of what's happening right now in our personal lives. It really has to do with the accumulation of other things from the past, uh, stuff that you've been through, man. It really affects the way that you connect with others. It really does. And I'm gonna be like really, really, and I'm just gonna be honest. I have struggled with interpersonal relationships. I have, to the point that, sometimes we get to thinking that you start to feel like everyone's against you. You start to, that me against the world wound, basically. That's what that is, like feeling like and that's not true. Everyone is not against you. Everyone's not against me, but it feels like that because of certain experiences that we've had, especially if you, like I said, man, from all the past traumas, including the bullying, being ostracized for no reason. You didn't understand what it was. Like, what is this? You know, sometimes for some of us, getting beat, for the longest, we try to figure out, like, what is it about us that has caused people to abuse us in the way they did, and at first, when you're looking at things in terms of, like, when you look at it from a carnal mind, you might think that it might have something to do with your outer appearance. You get treated like that, and that can cause a lot of wounds in a person, like a lot of wounds, man. Before you went through your spiritual awakening, you might have thought that your targeting had more to do with your outer appearance, which, like I said, they could use that against you. They could use that it's like people will look for any way to make you feel bad about yourself, and whatever that shows up for you, they're gonna do that. So yes, that they have used that, but I start to realize that I think this thing is deeper than that, meaning that it's on a spiritual level at this point, because it's only certain people, man. It's not everybody, because you might look around and you might see someone that kind of looks like you, but they're not getting that treatment that you're getting, and you're like, why is that? Why did they mistreat you? And it's not to say that you wanted the other person to be mistreated, but you start to wonder, like, okay, why are you getting that mistreatment, and the person that kind of looks like you, it seems like they're accepted by these people that are hurting you. You know what I mean? So now you have to think, like, okay, once you see that, you're like, this thing is deeper than the outside, the outer appearance. It's deeper than the flesh. At that point, Once you see that, you realize that this is spiritual, and it's always been like that. It's just that they might use your outer appearance or your flaws or perceived flaws, because really there's nothing wrong with the way that you're born. That's not a flaw, but they'll turn it into a flaw, whatever insecurity that you have, you know? It's like people will treat you according to how they view you. So if they view you as a certain ethnicity, they will treat you in that way. If and it could be a different ethnicity. And let me just paint a picture for you. I remember somebody you know, those who think that, let's say somebody tells me that they think that I'm Sicilian or something like that, and then I actually come across a Sicilian, and you know, they say, oh no, you look more like a Hawaiian, you know. Now I did encounter a lady from Guam that thought I was from Guam as well. Now that was a very warm welcome. Let me talk about that. Very warm welcome. Let's talk about the warm welcomes, you know, get a little positive here. But I was at a coffee shop, and then the lady from Guam looked at me and she's like, I know you're one of us, you know. She was like, I just know when I know a person from Guam when I see one, you know, or you're either that or Hawaiian. And, you know, she was happy to see me and stuff. And I was like, well, I'm Mexican, you know. And she was like, well, hey, we're very connected. You know, us Pacific Islanders, you know, we're connected to you Mexicans, and, you know, all that stuff. So it was very warm. It was like a beautiful moment for me. And that's how I know she was not from the divided states. You know, she was from Guam. And she thought I was from Guam too. So it was like, you know, even though I told her I was Mexican, she didn't try to question me or try to say, well, you must be mixed with something else, because there's no way that you're just Mexican. You're not just Mexican. It's like, you do realize that you can be mixed and be Mexican. Mexican is a nationality. You know what I mean? But that's a whole nother thing. But again, this lady, she didn't question that. She just accepted what I said. Hey, I'm a Mexican. And she said, you know what? She embraced me, and she said, we're very connected, you know, in the Pacific Islands and stuff. And you know, and then we started talking about, well, she could tell that I had like indigenous Mexican roots and stuff like that. So there was that appreciation for that, you know. It was a beautiful moment, you know, just a nice cultural exchange, man, a conversation and stuff, and just pure respect and love, you know. So it was just nice, you know. And I always appreciate when I have conversations with that and it could be just like I said, these are people that you might see once, twice, 3 times or whatever, and you might not see them again. And it's just nice, because that's how it helps you with having that interpersonal connection with others, man. And I always appreciate the positivity that I encounter in my life. So that right there is nice, man. But oh yeah, some Puerto Ricans too. Now, Puerto Ricans throughout my life, you know, for the most part have been, you know, welcoming as well. Because a lot of times they think I'm Puerto Rican too. It goes back to that lady from Guam. She thinks I'm from there, you know. You notice they're both islands? Yeah. You know, they're both islands. So yeah, there's a connection there. I like the islands, you know. I just like to be at peace, you know. But I remember, man, I told she was cool, but there was this one Puerto Rican lady in particular that I went to community college with, you know, back in Illinois. And, you know, I told her, she was like, what's up, you know, because she thought I was Puerto Rican too, you know. So it was like that. And then she was curious. I said, she wanted to know, you know, my background and stuff. And I'm like, well, I'm just Mexican. She like, man, you're not just Mexican. But she was playful, you know. So she was like, man, you're not just Mexican. You got to have some, you Puerto Rican. You mix with Puerto Rican, you know. And I'm like, no, I'm just Mexican. And she's like, man, you ain't Mexican. You're a Puerto Rican sister, you know. And she just embraced me, man. Just pure love. It was just pure love, you know. And I appreciate that. I never forget moments like that, you know. Even if I never see them again. Because time flies, man. Time, you know, you drift away, you move, you know, all kinds of things happen. People get married, people have all types of stuff. And those are moments that, you know, it makes a difference, you know, when a person shows you love and stuff like that. And, you know, there's a sense of camaraderie, you know, especially when it comes, you know, within, I don't know, man, it's just, there's a connection, and you start to realize, you start to learn about who you are, you know, as you get older. And the more you learn, the more you understand why certain people resonate with you, You know, there's been certain people that resonate with me, and then I realized, like, yeah, I see why, man. And sometimes it could just be spiritual. It's not always just, you don't have to be from an island for me to resonate. It's just that if there's a certain type of energy that people have when they come from when they come from an island. Not saying that everybody's perfect, but there's this freedom, there's this sense of freedom and being able to just free spirited, very it's like there's this type of energy that comes from people that are from the islands, that I don't know how to explain it, man. It's just you just have this free flowing energy. You know what? This reminds me of a conversation I had when I when I used to work at the front desk at a gym. I had a conversation with this girl from the Samoan Islands. And she said she's gonna move back there because she said there's no freedom in the divided states, And I agree, because she said you gotta pay all these taxes just to have land. She said you don't really own land here. If you have to pay taxes every year for land that you already paid for, can you really say that you own it? And yeah, you have a good point there. I agree. And that's when she was like, said she was gonna move back to the Samoan Islands. Because she said you could actually, once you buy your land, I mean, it's yours, So it's like that's what it is, unless you inherit it from your relative, your elders. But other than that, she went back there. But there you go. So, man, I'm telling you, man, there's some amazing people. It's just that we have to, you know what I mean, like I try to be a little open, and I'm kind of working on that. And it's just you have some great people that they can come with some really helpful information. They have some insight, or it could just be a warm conversation, man. Just good times, good laughs. That's it. That's all. And that's another characteristic of people that come from an island. When you come from an island, it's like you have that sense of freedom, free spiritedness, positive energy, just taking it slow, man. You don't have to hustle every fucking day. You don't have that energy of, oh, oh, I have a tie. Like, there's no, it's just a sense of like, you just want to feel the ocean breeze, man. And you just want to relax and you just want to have a good time. And at the end of the day, the greatest thing about life is being merry, and merry, I mean, like, I think that's what comes to my mind is King Solomon. King Solomon, when he said that all is vanity, right? He kept saying all is vanity. You could make all this money. You could have this title and all this stuff. And guess what? You're gonna, there's no, it's like you get to a point where you're just like, you just want to have a good time. You just want to enjoy, the company of good people. And just, that's it. It's not really, people have this thing where they feel like they have to do certain things so they could feel like they're above others, man. I'm just sick and tired of that. I'm sick and tired of the rat race. I'm sick and tired of like the ways of the divided states that really keeps us divided, really. You feel like you have to become a certain way. You have to lose part of your essence just to be accepted by a so-called society that will never honor you. And that's what that is, if you have this free spiritedness and you just have this like sense of, I don't know, man, when you're a person that has a desire to connect with the natural world, people are going to look at you funny. They're going to say that you're lazy. They're going to say that you're not trying hard enough. And it's like, look, life isn't all about just hustle, hustle, hustle all day, every day. I really can't stand hustle culture because guess what? I worked my ass off just to end up with not much to show for it at this moment. Simple fact that, well, the economy is pretty shitty right now, so that we can say that's out of our control. But another thing too is that I'm not letting anything stress me, man, because like I said, I've done what I was supposed to. I've done a lot of, I've even tried to get into the STEM field, and man, I've done a lot. But guess what, man? It's just, and I already made a video talking about, that journey and stuff. And yeah, I might actually leave that video in the description if you want to check it out, but it has to do with when I was talking about all this vanity and why I decided to drop out of college, because of course, I mean, I don't look forward to student loan debt, and I was like, man, I don't know why I even consider this, but there's different ways of doing things. But one thing I will say is that, you know, I had to take a break, you know, because I was learning so many skills. I have so many certifications. You probably think like, well, how the hell do you go from having a personal trainer certificate and you now you know how, you know, a little bit about physical therapy, and then you got fucking medical assisting and data science, data analyst. Yes, I've done all of that stuff and applied to so many different jobs and stuff. And eventually, man, I just, right now, it's just I'm really looking at a lot of us. I think a lot of us are participating in the gig economy, you know, being self-employed, doing the little, you know, having app jobs, basically, you know, delivering stuff, logistics, sometimes package delivery. You have that too. You know, there's a lot of different ways to do it now. You just use your own vehicle and you do what you do. And that's basically where some of us are in that position, because it seems like that's the best way to make money at the moment that pays the bills and stuff. But other than that, I mean, essentially you want to, you know, you want to do more too. And there's nothing wrong with wanting more, you know, but also consider the fact that, you know, this is a very, the United States is declining and the economy is it's just terrible. The job market is terrible. And so there's that. So I just want to say this as a reminder for you guys, you know, don't stress about this stuff, because you're not alone. You know, I'm going, you know, a lot of us, we're going through it in some cases. Some of us, you know, we've been homeless before. Some of us are still homeless. Some of us live in a hotel. Maybe you finally got an apartment, or, you know, whatever the case is. Congratulations to all of you who have made it and have, you know, you have a roof over your head, and you that's really what I really, in my mind, whether it's a extended stay hotel, an apartment, it doesn't make a difference, because you still have a roof over your head. You have a place to shower, and that you have a bed. I mean, and you're not out there, because now it's becoming against the law to be homeless, like to be out there, even sleeping in your car. They're making laws against that, and even having an RV, and it's just a lot of craziness happening right now. And it's just like, it's crazy, man. Like, people, it's becoming very hard. So, you know, it's becoming very hard. So always, man, I try to practice gratitude, man, and whatever it is that you're going through, you know, hey, you just count your blessings, man, when it comes to that, because, you know, you can't even sleep in your car nowadays, you know, and some people have been in that, and a lot of times it's out of your control. Like, how are you supposed to, you know, what else can you do, you know? So again, you know, but hey, whatever it is that you're going through, I appreciate every single person that listens to my videos, you know, that likes, comments, you know, regardless of what you have going on, you know, you still showing up, and I appreciate that, you know, and I hope that everything works out for all of you, whatever situation that you're going through. Hopefully, you know, things will get better, you know, and hey, if it gets worse, then shit, you have no control over that, man. You have to, like, sometimes you have to think, like, if you have no control over something, don't blame yourself, you know, don't blame yourself for certain things, because some stuff is just out of your control, you know, and there's a lot of that happening right now. So we have to try to keep ourselves in, at least in somewhat of a high spirit, you know, somewhat. So that's what I try to do, you know, keep that energy. But sometimes we feel like giving up, you know, and we get into bad habits. And whatever you do, man, don't go back to the substance, because, man, you know, or going back to that self-defeating thoughts, and the negative thoughts start kicking in, and you're back to where you were back in 2009 or 1995 or whatever year you were at your lowest, you know. So you don't want to go there, and it happens. But you have to understand that, man, you're not alone in this. You know, it's crazy. Everything's crazy right now. So, you know, I really hope that, you know, I hope that you enjoyed the video. Much love and appreciation to everyone. Take care. And until next time.